Hello and welcome back to My Guitar Pro Tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how to recreate this jazz chart with this really cool jazz font. If you were with me the last couple of tutorials, we learned how to do some basic file creation from scratch with these two practice files, which were available on my website if you'd like to download them for free. And then we also went into a website called Ultimate Guitar and found a file that someone else created and downloaded that for free. So lots of things that you can already do at this point. Hopefully you've figured those three things out. But if you haven't, please go back and watch my previous tutorials. That helps me out a lot. Thank you. Anywho, like I said, we're going to recreate this. Now, you might want to recreate a file that looks like this for a couple different reasons. Maybe you're in a jazz band, or maybe you're a guitar teacher teaching a student that's in jazz band, and you want to try to stay consistent with their music, which, by the way, might look something like this. I just pulled this music offline, Crazy Train. All right, so let's get started. So first thing, we're going to open a new file like we've been doing. Go to File, New. And I'm going to be a little fancy here. I'm going to select the electric guitar and put it on the jazz setting. And that's not going to really affect the way that it looks as much as it's just the way it sounds if I play it back. Now, we are going to make one major change here before we move on to create. We're going to click the jazz / notation here, right here. And that's going to give us a new staff. Now, at this point, you could just click create, or you could also go ahead and turn off the other staffs. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the other stabs, and then I'll show you how to get them back once you're in the file. All right, so create. So if you are wanting to switch back and forth between these stabs, maybe you've got some sort of lead guitar happening and then some chords, and you want the best of both worlds, then you go up the top left here and open up the title menu here. And what will usually pop up first is this right here where you can input the title. So we'll go ahead and put that in first. A little jazz guitar and C. And just so it's easier to tell when I'm flipping between the files, we'll go ahead and just put in 2 right there. So you know that this is the one we're creating. All right, now I said if you wanted to add those other stabs back in, it's really easy. Just click track. And then you can see those same symbols here next to notation. So let's say I want the standard notation and tablature in there as well. And there we go. We've got our 3 stabs. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those again, and then get rid of this menu again. So let's take care of some of the easy stuff first. Instead of tackling the chords, we're going to go after the tempo, which is 160. All right. So that's pretty easy. Just click on the tempo marking and then type in the number you want. You're done. All right, next thing we're going to tackle is this weird symbol here. Now, if you've never played jazz music before and you're about to start, this is something you're going to see quite often. It's called a triplet feel. It's really simple, but it's kind of hard to see. In the top middle of the screen, there's a little bitty symbol up here where it says 1/8 notes equal 1/8 notes, right? I'm going to click that. Triplet 1/8 note. Okay. And there's the symbol we want. So you've probably noticed at this point that our font definitely doesn't match up. And that's actually going to affect the way the chords and everything else looks too. So we're going to change that next by going File, Style Sheet. And note, you could also hit F7 here. It pulls up the Style Sheet menu. And then in the bottom left of the menu, click Options, Apply Jazz Style. Notice it still hasn't changed because we need to click Apply. Okay. And there we go. Now our font looks the same across the board. We've got the title, the tempo, the triplet feel. All right, so from here, I'm gonna do one small aesthetic change. I'm gonna fit to width just to make it a little better for me to see. And then I'm gonna start inputting these chords. So if you watch my other tutorials, you'll know shortcut for chord diagram is A. And what I showed you previously was to use these menus, tonality for A, type for minor 7. Now the problem with doing it this way for our little practice demonstration is that it auto-populates a different version of the chord that we want. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to reset, and I'm going to manually input these notes. Now it says F minor 7 because we're on the first fret, so I'm going to use my scroll wheel. We're going to go to the 5th fret. Also, my fingering here is not convenient. So if you want to change the fingering of this, you have a couple things you can do here. If you click the check mark so it turns off, what that's going to do is going to toggle between a bar and a single finger chord. So we want the bar to be off, although that's not a necessary step all the time. Sometimes you can get away with just simply changing the fingering. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit right click on this and click middle, right click, ring. That one's where I want it. Right click, ring. And this is the way that I like to play the chord personally. So you can choose whatever version of the chord you want or change the fingering however you want, but there's an A minor 7. Okay. All right, so it's looking pretty good, but we got to start putting in the rhythm now. And it's pretty simple because it's 3 quarter notes and 2 eighth notes. So you can see that it's defaulting to a quarter note, which is typical. I'm going to click the keyboard shortcut C to simply just copy that a bunch of times. And then you notice I left an extra quarter note here because what I'm going to do, if you remember from a previous tutorial, is click the minus key. Now, if this is the first tutorial of my series you've watched, that might have done something different. Matter of fact, it would have done the opposite. It would have made it a half note. So what we want to do if you are experiencing this problem is go up to File, Preferences, Interface, and then toggle the plus minus keys behavior so it says longer, shorter. Now, if your preference is the opposite, that's fine. But for my purposes of my tutorials, I'm going to stick with that just so you know what's happening. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. Going to go back down to what's a half note now. I'm going to hit the minus key to get it back to an eighth note. I'm going to hit C to copy. And there we go. We've got quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, and 2 eighth notes. That's what we want. So I'm going to kind of fly through the next ones. It's the same process. We're going to enter a chord and enter the rhythm, and then we'll move on to the next step. One final step here to make it look a little prettier is I'm going to hit Control Enter, and that's going to stretch the measures out. And then we also need a repeat sign. So shortcut, little right side bracket, and then simply click Enter. Now we got a repeat sign. Now, if you want the chord diagrams to appear above that jazz style setting, got rid of them. So we need to go put that back in. And that's really easy. We go back to our style sheet. Okay, and then if you scroll a little bit, you should see chord diagrams, and we want them on top of the score, visible. Click apply. Okay, and there we go. We've got our chord diagrams. So we have everything looking the correct way. We've got our tempo, triplet feel, our chords, the correct rhythm, and a repeat sign. So that's it. If you want to take a listen to what this sounds like, you can simply just start it from the beginning and then click play. Okay, that's all I got for you today. Good luck.